The James Show Podcast.
Breaking news just since the show started. Number one, not only are you kind of upset at the riots we're seeing in L.A., apparently God is too. There was a 3-point-something magnitude earthquake that just happened in Los Angeles, according to some early reports. All right, keep angering God. Is that just a coincidence? And then also I saw the Congressional Black Caucus right before the James Show started. This came across my social media feed and I had to go dig it out. Congressional Black Caucus did a press conference in Washington, D.C., and during the question and answer session, the lady who runs the Congressional Black Caucus kind of laid her cards out on the table. Her name's Yvette Clarke. She's a Democrat from New York. She was asked if all these egregious things that she was attributing to Trump, if it rise to the level of impeachment. You're not going to believe her response.
I see you. Yes.
You've described what Trump is doing in Los Angeles as lawlessness and unconstitutional and a violation of human rights. Do these things rise to the level of impeachment? Are these impeachable offenses?
Well, you know, I do. I believe it is. I definitely believe it is. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Oh, we know you're going to impeach him. You've already made up your mind to impeach him. You're just looking to backfill in the blanks like it's some sort of reverse Mad Lib here. Y'all, we know you're going to impeach him. You impeached him twice just for what, a phone call to Ukraine for January 6th? Okay. This is, remember this. This is the thumbtack that I want you to push into your memory bank. Whenever the impeachments come and they bring it back to this is where you heard it first. You knew that they were going to do it. And who wants to put some money on that? Who thinks Trump's going to get impeached sometime in the next 4 years? There's like a 98% chance. And I hope I'm wrong. I'm hesitant to say 100% on most things. But on this one, I'll ratchet it all the way up to 98%. Someone is going to try to impeach this guy. I don't know if they're going to have to go through the whole trial or whatever, but there will be a full effort. So we have those two things that are happening on top of what was already going on. I want to rewind it back to last year. Let's jump in. I brought the flux capacitor. We're going to go back to February of last year, 2024. Feels like eons ago. Remember February of 2024 when Joe Biden was still sharp as a tack? That's how long ago this is. But it was only a few months ago. It's like 15 months ago. So MSNBC was predicting that there would be unrest across America, and it's coming soon. They just got the source of it completely wrong. The source of their rage that they were concerned about was white rural rage. In fact, two guys had written a book called White Rural Rage, and they were guests. And it's not like they were on for 2 minutes either. I think they were on for a half hour or whatnot, talking about how all of America needs to be scared because the rural white people are coming after them.
Joining us now, Professor of Political Science at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Tom Schaller, and journalist and opinion writer Paul Waldman. Their new book, out tomorrow, is entitled White Rural Rage.
And his name's Paul Waldman, not Paul Wallman.
A threat to American democracy. And Tom, we'll start with you. Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy at this point? You would think, as we pointed out, looking at Joe Biden's background and Donald Trump's, that the opposite would be true.
I mean, we lay out the fourfold interconnected threat that white rural voters pose to the country. First of all, and we show 30 polls and national studies to demonstrate this. So we provide the receipts in Chapter 6.
Do you understand how crazy that is? They're basing, look, you need to be scared of white rural people based on these polls? Hang on, I'll let him finish, but
they're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, and anti-gay geodemographic group in the country. Second, they're the most conspiracist group. QAnon support and subscribers, election denialism, COVID denialism and scientific skepticism, Obama birtherism. Third, anti-democratic sentiments. They don't believe in an independent press, free speech. They're most likely to say the president should be able to act unilaterally without any checks from Congress or the courts or the bureaucracy. They're also the most strongly white nationalists and white Christian nationalists. And fourth, they are most likely to excuse or justify violence as an acceptable alternative to peaceful public discourse.
So you mentioned a lot of...
Yeah, so what have you seen in the last few months? On New Year's Day, let's just do this year. On New Year's Day, when a guy ran a car through a crowd of people on Bourbon Street, he was shouting Free Palestine. Was that white rural rage or was that a lefty constituency? because they were floating Palestine flags in Los Angeles over the weekend. And even at the protest that was happening here in Dallas last night, I saw on the reporting here, the video, Palestinian flags. No, that's on your team, bud. When 2 Jewish diplomats get gunned down, get shot in the back, leaving the Jewish Heritage Museum in D.C. 4 weeks ago, the guy was yelling, "Free Palestine." When the guy was burning Jews alive with a makeshift flamethrower, shouting "Free Palestine," was that white rural rage? Has there been any white rural politically motivated violence since they said this? Or how about this? How about in your entire life? See, you're told to be scared of white people in rural areas. That is the safest place you can be. Rural America, and I find that so disgusting here, because you have scared so many people into thinking, the scariest, dangerous part of America is if you leave the big city, when just the opposite is true. Joining me now is the legal analyst for The James Show, the great Jeremy Rosenthal from TexasDefenseFirm.com. And I got some questions for you because there's a constitutional crisis happening, Jeremy. Welcome back to the show, first of all.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Okay, so I'm hearing people on TV, on Team Red, they're saying Trump deploying the National Guard to California is righteous. On Team Blue, they're saying it's unconstitutional. Which one's correct, Jeremy?
Well, anything on television is correct. The answer is if it's the U.S. Marines that are being deployed by the President of the United States, it's unquestionably constitutional. Now, if it's the state National Guard or the Army National Guard, it's actually a ridiculously muddy question. Probably one that Trump wins, but it's we can get into the weeds with this one pretty far if you want, but it's not really as clear-cut as you might think.
So am I going to hear the words posse comitatus?
I don't know. That's like, is that Latin? I'm not familiar.
Yeah. Don't be coy with me. Just tell me the answer.
Oh, I don't know. I really don't. James, man, I'm a homebody. Look, I mean, I watched my Lady Raiders lose the national championship the other night. My feed on my Facebook Reels is tornado warning videos. I do this law stuff as a hobby. I'll tell you this. The U.S. Constitution actually delegates the power of the state militia to Congress. Congress has given the president authorization to activate them in limited circumstances. And in most circumstances, Gavin Newsom would be right, and he does get to approve of when they are deployed. However, Donald Trump, the executive, does get to deploy them in instances where they're protecting federal property or preventing federal offenses, which is why I think the executive branch wins in this instance. And not only that, a lot of folks that I talk to are afraid that, well, a judge is just going to block this, they're just going to do that. We're not arguing about Social Security numbers getting dispersed. We're not arguing about immigration policy that can wait 30 days or 60 days. We're talking about the streets on fire. So I think that the courts are probably going to side with the executive if push comes to shove.
Well, what I see, and we're talking with Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com, what I see from the amateur legal experts like myself, I'm definitely maybe a top-seeded amateur, but not a pro. People keep bringing up the Posse Comitatus Act. The other one is the Insurrection Act. And there's a video that's floating around of Donald Trump in 2020 being asked why he doesn't call in the National Guard to the George Floyd protest. And they're using this as like a gotcha. We're like, see, even Trump admitted he can't send in the National Guard.
We have laws. We have to go by the laws. We can't move in the National Guard. I can call insurrection, but there's no reason to ever do that, even in a Portland case. We can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor. We have if that holds true, I think the key to that is unless I declare an insurrection. And so if the Insurrection Act says if there's an insurrection, he could legally deploy a National Guard or other military troops without the governor's approval. Does my amateur analysis check out?
Yes and no. Just because you declare it doesn't make it so.
Agreed.
That is I think where the rubber meets the road on this, is that you can't just declare a national emergency, declare martial law, put tanks on the street just because, well, we're going to do this. The facts do have to some degree match. We kind of had this same debate over the Aliens Enemies Act, right, where the administration made, I think, a pretty clever argument where they said, look, in times of war, we're allowed to use extraordinary immigration remedies. And you could argue that Tren de la Agua or MS-13, them coming here as an invasion or an incursion or an act of war. And ultimately, it's a legal decision. Well, is it not? But the facts do sort of have to meet there. So you're a lot better than an amateur. You're like a 2 or 3 handicap here, James. You're pretty good at this.
Well, I haven't gotten paid for it yet, so only then would I dare call myself pro. But Diane over here on Facebook left a comment, and I think this is directed at you, because you mentioned that he's allowed to deploy the Marines as long as it meets some certain qualifications. So she says, are the Marines in Los Angeles to protect federal property and free up federal police to help LA police? And she says federal law enforcement officers can be commissioned as peace officers in state or local jurisdictions, and a longer explanation under that, but sort of the same tact. So as long as they're not actually arresting people, the Marines can go and protect federal buildings. I think a lot of people are just trying to nail that part down.
Right. The reason why the president, in my view, can deploy the Marine Corps is because they are under direct federal supervision, and he is absolutely, 3 ways till Sunday, the commander in chief over the United States Navy and by extension the United States Marine Corps. Whereas he's got these legal loopholes to some degree with the Army National Guard. That's why he can direct their movement. Now, once they're on the ground, what can they do? What can they not do? That's a little more in the mud. I mean, we've got in this country what's called habeas corpus. That's your right to petition the government directly and quickly for relief in certain situations if they're acting out of bounds. The Marines can't go out there and violate people's rights. They probably cannot go and act as if they were peace officers. But if you're the commander in chief of the United States of America and our armed forces, you could, in theory, send the Marines out to wherever, stand on the street corner and wash windows for people's cars.
Hey.
So from that standpoint, I think it's lawful.
Okay, I have a couple more good questions that came in through the email. Do you have time for another segment?
Of course, James, man, always.
Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe you have to run into immigration court or something real quick. We're talking with Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. If you have any questions for him, send them to me on the break. He'll answer a couple of the email questions coming up next. James at WBAP.com, or you can send me a message on Facebook or YouTube or X, or you know how all this works. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hello, homeowners. Listen. Your roof has taken an absolute beating in 2025. It's probably worse than most years that your roof has been up there taking beatings. It might take a little bit more of a beating this week. If you have any doubt, if you're missing a shingle, if you think you see water weeping through, or you have some questionable rotted looking board in your gables, anything, there's no downside to getting the free inspection. If your roof's okay, they'll come out, they'll look at it, they won't charge you anything. So you have no reason to not get your roof inspected. Go to blueribbondfw.com. It takes less than an hour. They say it takes an hour. I guess that's if you have like a palatial mansion or whatever. But the old Parker compound, the whole thing took 40 minutes tops. And that includes the conversation we had afterwards when he was showing me the pictures of a couple suspicious spots. We went over some of the options. If I was going to need a roof, here's the different types of shingles, here's the different types of styles and cuts, and this is what a ridge vent looks like. And so you had it all explained to you. It didn't take long at all. And really, that's all you have to worry about 40 minutes of your time to meet with them and make sure your roof is okay. However, if you do catch something, this will be the smartest call you make all day. Go to blueribbondfw.com. blueribbondfw.com.
The James Show Podcast.
If you want a copy of the Rhino list, send me an email, james at WBAP.com. Every time I say that, about 18 to 30 people want a copy of the state representatives you sent to Austin that had an R next to their name but voted with the D's on so many important issues, including why your property taxes are probably going to stay disappointingly high. Jeremy Rosenthal continues. He's a legal analyst on the James Show, and he does TexasDefenseFirm.com. So I want to start with some questions that I got. Two of these are via email. One of them is via Facebook message. Christina says on Facebook, can Newsom or Karen Bass be arrested? Now, I think this is predicated on the interview with Tom Homan over the weekend where he was asked about that. And I have that audio so I can play it to catch everyone else up.
You've also mentioned Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom. And there have been threats, previously that if you stand in the way of your enforcement operations, you could be subject potentially to arrest. Are you saying that about Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom? Are they at risk of being arrested?
I'll say it about anybody. You cross that line. It's a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien. It's a felony to impede law enforcement from doing their job.
Do you think that the mayor of LA is doing that?
If she crossed that line, we'll ask the DOJ to prosecute. Do I think she's crossed the line? I don't think she's crossed the line yet. But I'm telling you, the warning we're sending is we're not going to tolerate people attacking our officers.
So my interpretation of that is, I guess they could be arrested, but I don't expect them to get arrested. What do you think about that, Jeremy?
Defending your legal actions, filing lawsuits is not, I think, what the statute contemplates when you are talking about actively harboring or doing something of that nature. You look at the judges, the one in Wisconsin, the one in South Texas. Those are legal officials who made some poor choices when faced with ICE agents, and we can debate whether or not it's fair that the ICE agents put them in that position. But having been in that position, they certainly probably made some poor choices in those instances. But I don't think that that's what Tom Homan is really saying. He's being tough. But I haven't seen anything that the mayor of Los Angeles or that Gavin Newsom has done that would frustrate or harm or stop law enforcement. They're going to the courts, which is what they ought to do if they have a disagreement with how something's done and they have a legal basis to try to stop it.
All right. And thank you, Christina, for the question. Just include your town, too, so I can say Christina from, Watauga or wherever you're from. Next question. This came in an email, james@wbap.com, from Matt in Dallas. Give 1 point to Matt for actually including his city. He says, I know you're talking with the lawyer on hold about Trump sending troops into L.A. I've been hearing that if Governor Abbott does not sign or veto the THC cannabis hemp ban, it goes into law June 22nd. Will you verify if this is correct or not with the lawyer during your segment? All right, that kind of took a left turn, but your response to that?
Does he need to stock up? Does he have until June? Is he wanting to know if he needs to go on a spending spree between now and June 22nd?
Smoke weed every day.
Well, the problem that you're going to have is that it's going to be illegal to possess it after that if the governor signs it. Most laws in Texas, and I haven't seen the effective date of this. If the governor signs it, most laws take effect on September the 1st of this year. And in some instances, if it takes a little while to get the government to roll it out, it could take place September 1st of the following year. For some reason, the legislature likes September 1st. Sometimes it can be the first of the year. I don't think the minute the governor signs it, it's in action, if that's what's being asked, because 20 days would be 20 days after the legislature ended. So I don't know that it would be the 22nd.
Yeah, so vape them if you got them, I guess. Next question comes from CJ in North Richland Hills. Thank you, CJ, for including your town. This is for the lawyer. Can the president declare martial law in Los Angeles if the current violence and destruction is not met in turn with jail, injury, or death as consequences? Nothing will solve the stupidity.
That would be pretty extreme. And I think that something like that would be a last resort from what I'm seeing and reading. I mean, we're watching some pretty bad stuff on the television.
I know this is an impossible question. Off the top of your head, when's the last time we had martial law anywhere in the United States?
Oh, I don't know that we did. Maybe the Civil War. Okay. I'm guessing, but I would think that would be when you look at a really interesting from a lawyer nerd academic standpoint. If you want to take a look at the military and when the president can do things that the states don't like, Obviously, you can look to civil rights. You can look to George Wallace. You can look to we're going to federalize the troops, let students integrate in. You can also look at the Civil War. You can look at instances where President Lincoln, where Kentucky was on the verge of perhaps joining the Confederacy. I think there's a famous quote. I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's something like President Lincoln said, "I'd really like to have the Lord on our side, but I really have to have Kentucky." So the president can, in certain instances, take some pretty sweeping actions when it is in regards to the states. Martial law, I think, would be pretty extreme here, and suspending habeas and things like that's really, really hardcore stuff, and that's going to be the kind of stuff that I think the president could find himself fielding some really difficult questions from his own party, and I don't think that's necessarily where he wants to be. From what I'm seeing and what I'm reading, although the violence is never a good thing, it's the city of LA says we've got this under control. The state of California is also saying they've got it under control. Do we trust them? Do we believe them? I don't know, but I think martial law is I think that's pretty far out there.
Well, you know what? I have a couple more questions, but we're out of time. Thank you so much for lending your expertise. And look, if you want to send me some questions, I'll just save them up for next time Jeremy Rosenthal's on, and we can just have him answer questions from listeners. I was looking up the the martial law stuff. Used extremely sparingly in the United States, only for like little tiny localized riots, and it hadn't been happened in my entire life. The last one, 1961 or 1963, depending on which source I look at. So there's a quick answer there. Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. Thank you so much.
Thanks, James. Bye-bye.
We're having a big military parade coming up soon, and it's not, for the glories of the Trump empire. Some people make it out like he's Kim Jong-un here. It's the 250th birthday of the Army, and he's at Fort Bragg. And if you're thinking, wait, didn't Fort Bragg change its name? Yeah, they changed it back. Anyway, they did a flyover, and then I paused it right after the flyover. Listen to his remarks to the crew there. Wow. Here we go.
Wow. That's a beautiful sight, and it's a beautiful sight to be with you in a place called Fort Bragg. Can you believe they changed that name in the last administration for a little bit? But we'll forget all about that. We're going to forget all about it. I want to just say God bless the U.S. Army and God bless the USA.
All right, so a little bit of a backstory on that.
So many incredible soldiers and
they tried to rename it in May 2022. It was for a brief time called Fort Liberty, and then I think we just changed it back in February, which, I mean, I'm not really that upset about name changes or situations like that. But it's funny how, once you start naming things after people, it's going to be politicized. And so it gets politicized, repoliticized by this guy. And it sounds like the people who were actually there like the fact that it's Fort Bragg. Because do you even know who Fort Bragg is named after? No, I don't either. He's some guy who's a Confederate general, I imagine. I'm not a big fan of the Confederacy, but at this point, when you hear Fort Bragg, do you think of Braxton Bragg? Nobody does. Nobody knows his history. I don't even know if he was a good guy, bad guy. I know nothing of it. Now Fort Bragg just means that place. Like the name has taken over. Like Wrigley Field. That's Wrigley Field. What's Wrigley Field? That's where the Cubs play. You don't think of the chewing gum, even though that was one of the first naming rights that we've seen in stadium history. So that was a cute little intro there for Trump at Fort Bragg. How is the View handling the LA riots? Well, exactly how you think they would handle it. Check out Whoopi saying, man, this is just all Trump's fault. He is so evil.
But I don't really, when you come in and when you go into the donut shop to look for people and you're dressed in tactical gear, you're creating an issue. You're creating a problem. You want people to come, you've scared them. Even when people are supposed to be there, when they come to talk to the judge, you're arresting them right after. What is going on here?
I'll tell you what's going on. No, Have you ever been in a tense situation where there was a riot down the road or there was a bunch of civil unrest and you saw someone in tactical gear? Did that make you feel more or less safe? I bet it made you feel more safe. If you're scared about seeing people in tactical gear, no, that's not what's creating a fear of tension. A feeling of tension and fear. How about the burning car out front of the store, more so than the guy in tactical gear just trying to get a donut? Oh, yeah, the tactical guy with a cup of Dunkin' coffee. That's what I'm scared of. Not the guy that's chucking bricks at cop cars. No, that's not scaring me at all. That's not causing any fear or unrest in the community. No, I'm trying to go about my day. Yeah, that smell of burning tires, that's fine. I can't see a guy with a helmet and camo on. The View, they're trying to cope over there. They were saying that this is terrible for Trump's ratings. Oh, really? That's interesting.
To do. What he wants to do is he wants to create a scene. He wants to say, I was justified in sending in the National Guard because look at how violent these protesters are, which they were not until this was exacerbated. But I think he has a strategy here. He is losing support in every area. Inflation, the economy, tariffs, foreign policy. His ratings are dropping.
Even on immigration.
Even on immigration, yes. He's dropping everywhere, even on immigration. Oh, that's interesting. Let's go to Harry Enton. They said this yesterday on The View. I know you didn't watch it, but millions of people do watch The View. Just a few minutes later, Harry Enton on CNN went over those immigration numbers. Check this out.
Yeah, if we just take a look at the baseline numbers here, this is Trump's net approval rating on immigration. It's gone up like a rocket. Compare now versus 8 years ago during Trump's first term. Look at this. In his first term, Trump was way underwater at minus 21 points. But look at this. He's up over 20 points. Now, in the aggregate, he is in positive territory at plus 1 point on his net approval rating. Some other polls even have it a little bit higher than that. There is no issue on which Trump is doing so much better than he was in his first term, more than the issue of immigration.
Y'all need to really just double check where you're getting your information, Anna Navarro and The View. And if you're scared when you see police, either you're living in a hellish police state, which is not true here in America in 2025, or you're probably a criminal. You're either in the midst of committing a crime, or people who are adjacent to you are committing crimes, or, living here illegally. You're probably on the wrong side. If cops scare you in this country in 2025, something's wrong with you. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.